No, shoot. No, 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 no.
I think just click out of the box and then present. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We're still waiting for folks to join, so we're just going to give them a couple of minutes to join in. Melvin, do you mind advancing the slide deck to slide 2, please? Yeah. So just a couple of housekeeping notes while we are waiting for folks. As you enter into the presentation, we're muting all the participants. But if you do have questions, don't be shy. You can put your questions into the chat, or if you want to ask anonymously, you can see at the bottom that we have an anonymous question asking service via menti.com, and we'll be saving those questions for a Q&A at the end. You know, since we have a couple of minutes right now, why don't you take a minute to follow us on Instagram or to follow us on Facebook? You know, helping to build our digital footprints helps us get the word out, and that's a big help for us. So if you have a couple of seconds right now, why not click away and do that right now? So we'll just give everyone else a couple of minutes to join, and then we'll get started. Also just wanted to take a couple of seconds to say a big thanks to our generous prize donors. Galleria, H Mart, and PAT Supermarket have donated some gift certificates, which we're going to be giving away towards the end of the presentation, so stick around. It's looking good. We're getting more people joining in. We'll just give them another minute or two. Okay, should we get started, everyone? Everyone, just want to say thanks for coming out to join us on this lovely Wednesday evening and to hear all about some of the great progress that we've made with the Rose of Sharon. We'll be giving an update, but just wanted to lay out some of the agenda. So we'll be starting with a quick introduction of the team members, both the steering committee and the team that's helping to organize the second generation fundraising effort. And then we'll be having a welcome from Eunice Kim, one of the founders of Arirang, and actually the chairwoman of the Arirang board up until 2020. She'll be followed by a special guest, Jee-Yun Lee, who you may have seen on CP24. And then Phil's going to give us some of the past context of, you know, the Rose of Sharon and Arirang's involvement. So he'll tell the story of how this all came to be. And that'll be followed by Tong Hahn, who's going to give us an overview of the deal and our fundraising goals. And we'll recap again with Eunice Kim, who's going to provide a vision for what AAFCC is looking to do for the Korean Canadian community and its seniors. We'll be moving on to talk about how you can make a difference, and then we'll be giving away some of those prizes and concluding with the Q&A. So with that, let's advance the slide and give the baton over to Dae.
Hi everyone, my name is Dae Kang. I'm with this steering committee as the Secretary General, or known as Chongmu among the Koreans here. And I would like to introduce our steering committee members, starting with Phil Cho. He's a partner at Weirfolds, and he is one of the legal experts helping with our this legal transaction with receivership sale. Next, Anna Jung. She's our second gen team leader, and she's been making all the communication with our members there. And the next, Tong Hahn. He is our real estate expert. He has long time experience in commercial real estate transactions. So he led the bidding process in 2019 and also recently this assignment deal in 2021. And Susan Han is also another partner at Weirfolds. She is a member from the beginning in 2017, and she has a heart for our community and especially for our seniors. And myself, I'm an engineer by trade, and I'm semi-retired, and I have been volunteering for a Korean community for since I got married in 1992. Starting with joining Korean Canadian Scholars Foundation back then. And next, Dr. Don Kim. He's our chair of our steering committee, and he has a huge heart for our seniors and driving this campaign with the Korean community. And next, Mrs. Kim, we known as Mrs. Kim, but Young-Suk Kim. She is a long time Korean community leader, working with many different organizations. And the long time organization that she has been involved was or is Korean Canadian Symphony Orchestra. And then she took on the baton of being the leader of Arirang last year from Eunice. So she's the current chair of Arirang. And Jeannie Kwan next. She is a retired IT project manager, and she's been helping with managing our website, Arirang website, and driving our campaign with our team. And next, Brim Lee. Brim is our finance guy. He's a director at Quad Real Property Group, and he will oversee all aspects of finance with this transaction, purchase of Rose of Sharon long-term care. The next, I introduced our second gen fundraising team. Myself, just being advisor to the group, having a long history, understanding of the long history of this Rose of Sharon acquisition process since 2017. And with Albert Nam, he is a real estate professional, and he has heart for our community and our seniors. And next, Anna Jung. She is our team leader in this fundraising team, and she works at Accenture IT consulting firm as a project team lead. Next, Jee-Yun Kim is expert. He's an engineer and also a lawyer in training, and he works at Sidewalk Clubs, and he manages much of our this English-speaking campaign team documentations and all he is a tech wizard in that aspect. And Lauren Lee, she is a recent graduate from McMaster University and joined our team with our campaign. Melvin Lee, he is a dentist from Ottawa, has home in GTA, so he goes back and forth between Ottawa and Toronto almost every week. And he's an avid golfer, and he has his grandmother Rose of Sharon and joined our team a few months ago, and he's been going all out since then. And Sydney Cho, she is only high school student studying at Holy Trinity, but she has excellent communication, creative skills, and contributing to our fundraising campaign. Thank you.
So we're super fortunate to be hearing from Eunice Kim. She's one of the first Korean Canadian women to actually be called to the bar in Canada. She's one of the founders of Arirang, and she was actually the chairman of the Arirang board up until 2020. So give it up for Eunice Kim.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here to share my feelings about Arirang and AAFCC with all of you. AAFCC is the acronym for Arirang Age-Friendly Community Centre, and it is a not-for-profit registered charitable organization established to improve the health and well-being of seniors. In spring 2013, a number of like-minded Korean Canadians met at Ryerson University boardroom and thereafter held meetings monthly for nearly 2 years to find a way to address the gap in the care of our seniors who could not access the government-funded community-based health services. We realized that Korean Canadian seniors depend heavily on their family members, community groups, and churches to answer their needs. We recognize that while relatively healthy seniors were able to join church groups such as senior colleges to socialize and benefit from services within the community, these services were on an ad hoc basis without community healthcare funding. More importantly, seniors with mobility and cognitive issues were isolated at home, often unable to benefit from Ontario's health services due to language barriers and cultural differences. Almost a year after we began our monthly meetings, Arirang Age-Friendly Community Centre was registered as a not-for-profit corporation to fill the role as a hub to connect resources to needs. Arirang is the name of a well-known Korean folk song, accepted worldwide as the unofficial anthem, national anthem of Korea's, and is included in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List for both South and North Korea. Age-friendly communities promote intergenerational support, maximize the potential and wisdom of the older generation, and encourage seniors' participation to help their overall well-being. Our board represents the essence of an age-friendly community, and directors have been ranging in the age from early 30s to over 80 years old. We firmly believe that senior care should not be left to families alone. Seniors, baby boomers, Generation X, as well as millennials should all be involved in a strategic management of senior care as a collective community. In 2016, AAFCC started an adult daycare program with our partners Miral Church and Chats, with donations from the community. The program is delivered in Korean and provides caregiver families with the necessary respite, while specially trained professionals provide frail and challenged seniors with social and wellness activities, companionship, nutritious Korean snacks, and lunch. Some of these seniors only get to have proper meal at these daycare programs. Our Arirang Adult Day program provides culturally and linguistically appropriate programs to seniors so that they can live longer at home and delay their entry into long-term care facilities. AAFCC is the only not-for-profit charitable organization in the Korean Canadian community that is solely focused on the health and well-being of seniors. Accordingly, when we learned that Rose of Sharon LTC was being sold by the receiver, we decided that the continuum of care for our seniors should be expanded to include the only Korean nursing home in Canada. We were called to action to be the organization to submit a bid to purchase the Rose of Sharon LTC from the receiver, and our board and all of Korean Canadian community came together to support the bid in 2017 through 2018. We were able to raise in a short couple of months $3.5 million and participated in the second round of the bidding process. You will hear from other presenters some details on how we lost the bid to the responsive group, which runs numerous nursing homes in the GTA and in Ontario, including Hawthorne Place, which is currently in the news in respect of the horrible conditions found by the military in spring 2020. and how glad we are to be able to be the ultimate purchaser of the nursing home. So why should we care to participate? As our parents and grandparents age, they become physically frail and unable to care for themselves. They deserve a place where they can live out their last years in peace and comfort. Even those elders who were once fluent in English struggle to find words and face difficulties communicating their pain and their needs. Our seniors need nourishment from familiar food and kind words from caregivers who speak their language. The second generation, we can take comfort in the knowledge that our grandparents and parents are being taken care of and they're getting the care they deserve. We're at a moment where younger generation Korean Canadians must step up and work together, not only to keep Rose of Sharon, but also to expand the number of beds for our seniors, for our community. So on behalf of AAFCC, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your active participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Eunice. It's so helpful to have that understanding and all that context. It really brings another dimension to this story. As much as the Rose of Sharon is caring for its residents and supporting them in living thriving lives, it also touches the lives of the residents' families. And we want to share with you what that looks like in this video interview.
Tell me about your relationship with Harmony.
So my family story is like a typical immigrant story, quintessential Korean immigrant story. You know, our parents, Amma and Appa, were working multiple different jobs to try to provide for the essential needs. So Harmony and Harabaji played a crucial role in cultivating that sense of home for me and my cousins. You know, Harmony came to Canada. Harmony and Harabaji came to Canada to take care of me because I was bouncing in and out of ICU because of pneumonia. So that sense of safety, everything that home is about, safety, security, identity, that really came from Harmony and Harabaji. You know, learning about yourself, like they're the ones that taught us Korean, that taught us Korean culture, that made Korean food for us. And on top of that, instilling those values of hard work, of perseverance, of pride, of why I should be proud of myself. All of those aspects really helped me become the person that I am today. So Harmony played an integral role in my life.
할머니께서 무궁화 양로원에 어떻게 가시게 됐지?
할머니 같은 경우는 이제 2014년에 1월에 뇌출혈로 쓰러지셔갖고 병원에 이제 한 6개월 정도 이제 병원에 계시면서 이제 그 당시에 이제 병원에 퇴원하기 전에 이제 양로원을 갈 수 있는 신청할 수 있는 기회가 있었어. 이제 삼촌하고도 같이 살기도 했지만 이제 몸이 점점 쇠약해지니까 이제 혼자 식사를 이제 하시는 것도 준비하는 것도 힘들고 그래서 많은 힘든 과정에 마침 이제 무궁화 양로원에 입주할 수 있는 이제 연락이 와서 할머니가 영어를 못 하시니까 이제 이왕이면은 이제 한인들이 운영하는 이제 한인 양로원을 갔으면 좋겠다고 생각을 했고 처음에는 이제 할머니가 사실은 양로원에 가시는 걸 별로 안 좋아했지만 이제 우리 자녀들이 이제 할머니를 설득해서 이제 할머니가 집에 혼자 계시면서 외로워하시는 것보다는 같이 양로원에 가셔서 이제 다른 분들하고 같이 어울리면 참 좋겠다는 생각을 해서 할머니도 또 이제 자녀들의 의견을 따라서 이제 결정하셔서 들어가게 되었지.
이모는 1.5세로서 무궁화 양로원을 가보면 기분이 어때? 특별히 다른 양로원과 하고 비교할 적에.
일단은 한국 양로원이다 보니까 한국말이 통하고 또 음식도 제공되는 게 한국 음식이다 보니까 주로 참 좋은 것 같고 무궁화 양로원처럼 많은 한인 양로원이 앞으로 좀 더 많이 이렇게 생겨서 우리가 교민 생활에 좀 더 우리가 좀 더 이렇게 같이 동참할 수 있고 또 나중에 내가 은퇴해서 내가 양로원을 갈 때 이왕이면 한국 양로원에 입주해서 남은 인생을 이렇게 같이 한인들하고 같이 공유하면 좋겠다 생각을 하면서 나 자신도 물론 이번 무궁화 양로원 기금 모금에 참여를 하겠지만 많은 한인들이 이번 무궁화 양로원 기금 모금에 동참하면 참 좋겠다는 생각을 하지 나도.
Why is Rose of Sharon so important to the Korean community here? And why should the Korean community be supporting Rose of Sharon?
I think Rose of Sharon embodies that spirit that we're all connected. When you go and you see their interactions, whether it's staff or residents, there's really this heightened sense of family and community, even when they're dealing with each other, right? Like when we were young, when mom got into a car accident, she went into a coma, and these harmonies that we didn't even know stepped up to take us in just because we were Korean, just to help a fellow Korean out. Like that is something to be proud about and something to be preserved, that we need to preserve as well, right? So Harmony's generation really had this value that if anyone in the community needed help, you help them. And you help them because at some point we're all connected. And I think you're well aware of this, and any Korean is well aware of this, is that we all know each other. In the Korean community, to some point, we all know each other. We all, someone's cousin, someone's aunt, someone's mom, right? So when it comes to the Korean community and Rose of Sharon, it is, and it needs to be a symbiotic relationship. They're coming out and helping us and supporting us and caring for us. We need to do whatever we can to support them in whatever capacity. And that's why this campaign is so important, because at the end of the day, it is someone's mom, it is someone's aunt, it's, someone's grandmother. So I think it's important that our generation honor that our Harmony's generation brought to Canada. It is upon us as a collective to make sure that this facility, that Rose of Sharon, is here to serve the Korean community.
Thanks for that. Definitely appreciate Gina and Marie for agreeing to be interviewed, and to Melvin for making that interview. Just wanted to introduce our next guest. We're very fortunate to have a special guest join us today. Jee-Yun Lee is an acclaimed journalist, well known for her work as a consumer specialist, and you may know her from her work with CP24. And we're very, very grateful to have her join us here tonight. Jee-Yun Lee.
Oh, sorry, Jee-Yun, you're on mute.
How's that?
Yes.
Great.
Oh, no, you're back on mute.
We can hear you.
We can hear you now. Wait. No. Can someone unmute her? There we go.
There we go.
There? Yay. Oh my gosh, I've only done about a gazillion Zoom sessions and I still can't figure it out. Okay, so we're all good, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm so emotional right now just thinking back, because I don't know if many of you guys know, when the idea of creating Rose of Sharon came up and they started to fundraise, we're talking about like building the actual facility. I was emceeing all those fundraising events. And then when they started to actually build the facility, I visited the site. It was a construction zone at that time. And then it finally got built. And then to all of a sudden see it being sold and the possibility of it not staying within the community was so scary, especially at this time during the pandemic, where as a reporter, I've been in the field during this entire time for the pandemic, and to see the horrors unfold at other long-term care homes. And I just, from a personal note, kept praying and praying that we wouldn't have any cases at Rose of Sharon during the pandemic, and to find out that we didn't, and then to almost have it sold to another company, and then finally come back to this, where we are now as a community able to fundraise again and take over this facility. I am just so emotional. And then watching the video with Gina and talking about her harmony and stuff, and it just got me so teary-eyed, because I'm not there yet, but I am approaching that sandwich generation where at some point I will be having to look after my parents. They're still very independent right now. And so all these things are on my mind, and to come off of a year during this pandemic where I've gone from one long-term care home to another where there's outbreaks and deaths, and then to read the military report and find out that there were dozens and dozens of senior citizens that didn't die of COVID, but literally died of dehydration, and those horror stories. It just has been such an emotional ride for me personally. And so it was really important for me to come and chat with all of you guys. I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole town hall meeting, but I am going to get an update from Philip Cho afterwards, who's a dear friend of mine. But it was really important for me to speak to all of you guys, to first of all say how proud I am that you have gotten this far, and that the community is really gathering together to raise money so that we can completely take over this facility, and how important it is that we keep this within our community. And sometimes you don't realize how good things are until it's almost out of your hands. And now that it's in our hands and we need to raise money, I encourage everybody to reach out to your friends, your friends, your family and their friends, to really do what we can to raise money and just keep this within the community. I know personally, watching firsthand in the field what is unfolded in these long-term care homes, it is heartbreaking. I don't want to see that happen to our community. I started off in an industry where there were very few Asians, there was barely any Koreans, to be honest with you, and it was the community that supported me through the hard times. And it's one of those things where that's why I'm so grateful, and I do whatever I can to try to support our community. And so I just really want you to go out there and do whatever you can to reach out to as many people as possible, and get them to reach out to as many people as possible, so that we can really, it's not just about taking care of our seniors, but it's also supporting our community, right? Because as Gina said in the video, it's somebody's harmony, it's somebody's mother, it's somebody's sister. We're all connected one way or another. And at some point, for anyone who's younger listening to this, you're going to be in that position one day where you're going to have to make a decision about your parents or your grandparents. And so you want that establishment to be there, and you want it to be culturally sensitive, and you want it to run in such a way that supports our community. And I don't know about you guys, but as I watch my parents age, they've been in Canada for almost 50 years. They're very westernized, but as they get older, you do see them sort of leaning back to their heritage, their culture. They feel more comfortable speaking Korean. They feel more comfortable watching Korean programs. And it wasn't like that when they were younger. So they obviously eat Korean food. And to think that if we don't have this in our community, then what does the future look like for our parents and our grandparents? And I know that I'm in a different position now because I am older, and I'm seeing what's unfolding in front of me of my future, and what I may have to make those difficult decisions one day with my parents. So I'm just so grateful to see all of this unfold. I'm so impressed to see the younger generations get involved in this, because you guys you're your voice, and you bring new ideas to the table on how we can fundraise and get the word out there. I'm so touched to see the committee and everyone involved. So thank you for everything that you guys are doing. I'm always available. If there's any way that I can help, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. But I just really wanted to say thank you. And knowing what I've seen in the field right now and what has unfolded over the past year at other long-term care homes, I'm just so grateful that Rose of Sharon is going to stay with the community, and that so far so good, knock on wood, during the pandemic, that our seniors are safe. But obviously this is just the beginning, and I'm hoping that with this brand new start, that we can really build something that it won't only just be one long-term care home serving the Korean Canadian community, but I'm hoping that we'll have several down the road, because it isn't just the GTA that we need to think about. Obviously, Korean Canadians right across the country. So, but this is a start, and I'm so excited. I'm emotional too, because I think this is all beautiful. And like I said, my door is open, my phone line is open, I'm ready to help out. And I really hope you share that same energy and passion as I do to really get this off to a brand new start, a brand new chapter for Rose of Sharon.
Thank you so much, Jee-Yun. That's, I find myself really, really moved by your words, and I've had to kind of wipe my eyes dry a bit. And yeah, I just wanted to really echo that, you know, hopefully that this is just really the start of, you know, a broader movement, not just in the GTA, not just in Ontario, but across the country. And hopefully this can be a model for that. Thank you very much for making time to be here tonight. Many of you have been following this story from the beginning, where while others, you know, have just heard about the Rose of Sharon more recently. So we just wanted to fill you in and make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page when it comes to the overall story. And so we're going to be hearing from Phil Cho next, who's going to talk about some of the background and, you know, how we came to be where we are today.
Thank you, Eugene, and thanks again, Jee-Yun, for your heartfelt message. Actually, it's interesting because you mentioned that you were there at the beginning when they were raising funds before construction, and so my story doesn't go back that far, but I do know that Rose of Sharon Ontario Retirement Community, you'll see there on the slide, that's the not-for-profit corporation that was incorporated to be the original license holder and be the developer to undertake the construction and build the facility that's there now. They were incorporated in 1993. So that's 28 years ago. And, you know, the fundraising started probably, you know, in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. They got their license to operate beds in around 1998. And that was increased in 2002 to 60 beds from 50. Unfortunately, you know, construction and things were delayed. Construction didn't actually start until 2006, and the building didn't get finished until 2010, and that's about 3 years behind schedule. So I was involved in this matter since 2013 as a lawyer. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go through, but just that first part of the slide, it's the who. So just some of the main characters in this story. You've got the Rose of Sharon Ontario Retirement Community. Like I said, that's a non-profit corporation, and they were the original licensee and the developer. That company is still the registered owner of the land, is still the registered licensee of the long-term care facility, but that company has been placed into receivership. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means. You heard from Eunice earlier about the Arirang Age-Friendly Community Centre. Again, it's a nonprofit registered charitable corporation, so they are a registered charity. And they are now the purchaser of the Rose of Sharon long-term care facility. And you'll hear from Tong a little bit about that, what that means. You'll hear a lot about the receiver and this concept of a receivership. So a company called Deloitte Restructuring Inc., which is the insolvency and restructuring arm of Deloitte, Deloitte & Touche, the accounting firm, one of the big four. They were appointed, it's a court-appointed officer, and that company, as in its capacity as a receiver, currently has control of all of that original developer, the original Rose of Sharon company, all of their assets, including the building, the long-term care operation, all of the property of that original company is being controlled and managed by Deloitte in its capacity as the receiver. So what are we talking about? We're talking about Rose of Sharon, which is the long-term care facility. It's a 60-bed. It's considered a Class A home because it's a relatively modern construction, even though now we're talking about over 10 years old because the construction was finished in 2010. The original vision of the developer back then was this retirement community and nursing homes. So you'd have a nursing home component, but you'd also have these retirement residences where elderly citizens of Korean heritage could live. They were still self-sufficient, still independent living, but may have some shared facilities with the nursing home, maybe some meal plans and things like that. So it was a really great idea when it started. And that's something we should, give some credit to, the first generation who had brought this vision, and Jee-Yun had mentioned that she was involved in some of the fundraising efforts at the outset. So the building has a long-term care facility, which, like I said, is 60 beds, but there's also 90 residential units as well. It's a 12-story building. But what happened was there were financial problems, there were construction delays, and that ultimately led to the secured lender, the financing bank of the construction project, to appoint a receiver in 2011. So just after the construction was basically completed, a receiver was appointed to take over because monies were not being paid on the construction loan. So as part of a receivership, the receiver is appointed by the court, and the receiver's mandate is to realize on assets, selling them in order to try to pay down the bank loans and then any other loans after, sort of in priority after the bank. And so the nursing home and the residential units were supposed to be sold. The residential units are going to be sold as condominiums. So there's no longer this concept of a Korean retirement community there anymore. And the nursing home is being sold, or it has been sold now, as its own sort of separate unit and as a going concern. So as I said, the receivership started in 2011. It's still going on. The receiver has not been discharged, and it's a very, very lengthy receivership. It had been fraught with problems. There were difficulties related to priorities between different lenders fighting over who was entitled to what, construction lien creditors, construction delays. There was litigation. And ultimately, it wasn't until around 2018 that the receiver was able to finally put the nursing home on the market and sell it in a receivership sales process, which is an unusual type of sales process for people who aren't familiar with it. But it's a closed bidding process. And at the time, AAFC, as Eunice mentioned, was working on putting together a bid. It was a very strong bid, but unfortunately, we did lose, or AAFC did lose on dollars. As Eunice mentioned, we made it to the second round, so there was nothing missing in terms of qualifications, but it was purely a dollars and cents issue that allowed another company to be selected as the bidder. So that sale was approved by the court in December of 2019, and at that time it was pretty much understood that we lost our chance to reacquire the nursing home back to the Korean community, because that for-profit entity was not a Korean-based company. That sale, though, was conditional on approval of the transfer of the license from Rose of Sharon, the original Rose of Sharon, to the new purchaser. And that license transfer had to be approved by the Ministry of Long-Term Care. What happened, though, was COVID created an unusual opportunity where the license transfer application was happening at the same time that COVID broke out. And it created an opportunity, as you'll see, to negotiate an assignment. Yeah, if you can go to the next slide. So Rose of Sharon is at Bathurst and St. Clair on Vaughan, sort of on Vaughan Road. It's actually a pretty good location. Parking is a bit hard, but it's close to the old Koreatown. You know, good real estate value. It is the only long-term care facility that exclusively provides culturally appropriate care for seniors of Korean heritage in Canada. You'll know, some of you may know, there's like a Korean floor at Castle View, like a city-owned long-term care facility. But although it has a lot of Korean residents on the floor and they have, you know, all TV on the TV, you know, it's not Korean food. The personal service support workers don't all speak Korean. Very few of them actually speak Korean. And in Vancouver also, there is a floor that's being dedicated to Koreans with, I think, Korean language and Korean food. But it is one floor in a larger Chinese based long-term care facility. So Rose of Sharon is the only exclusive one for Koreans. The long-term care facility is located on the main floor, and floors 4, 5, and 6 sort of sits in between some residential units, which is unusual and will be unusual when they're converted to condos. So as Eunice mentioned, AAFC Arirang was given the opportunity to be the bidder for Rose of Sharon, given its work and credibility in the care of Korean Canadians in Canada. What we saw and what we do see is that homes operated in the not-for-profit sector tended to have better outcomes than the for-profit sector. And you know what? This is why we want to do this. We want Koreans operating the nursing home for Koreans, because we believe that that would result in better care, and that this is part of a long-term strategy for seniors care in the Korean community. I'm just going to touch a little bit on how this happened, because I think it's really interesting and really important to know just about how incredibly fortunate we are to have this opportunity. So as I mentioned, back in 2018, we started to put together this task force to try to put in that bid and purchase Rose of Sharon from the receivership. I can tell you, you know, speaking with the lawyers for the receiver at the time and the receiver himself, we all believed that Rose of Sharon was really the one to put in the best bid. They were gonna walk away with this just because it wasn't an attractive kind of facility to acquire. So everyone was surprised when this other company came in and outbid everybody. But even after we lost the bid, Arirang continued to plan to try to obtain licenses, whether to build or purchase new land and start to develop its own long-term care facility. But what happened was COVID. You know, we saw in the news that it affected the for-profit sector really badly. The number of deaths in the for-profit homes, you know, was not a secret. It was a very terrible situation with the military coming in, and public sentiment towards the for-profit sector was really negative. And so the task force at the time, you know, strategized both publicly and privately to try to, you know, figure out strategies for what could happen. And ultimately, we were successful in negotiating a deal with that purchaser to basically take over the sale agreement from them. And the receiver, you know, a few months ago just consented to that. And so, you know, pretty much everything is good to go. The only thing we need is, you know, where the original purchaser was. We need to have the Ministry of Long-Term Care approve the license transfer from the old Rose of Sharon to Arirang shouldn't be a problem. And then of course we need to raise funds and close the deal. Before I turn this over to Tong, I do want to mention, like, I was representative counsel for purchasers of the retirement residences when the receivership happened, and that's how I came to be involved in the Rose of Sharon receivership. So I saw, a lot of the things that happened, the things that went wrong, and what was interesting when I look back now is that the reason why the license transfer application took so long was because there were so many construction problems with the original building that it took the receiver years to get things fixed, to get approvals, to get different things amended with the city before it was ready to let the new purchaser apply for the license transfer. So that delay actually led to the license transfer application not happening until around the time COVID hit. So if it wasn't actually for the construction problems, this sale to the other long-term care operator would have closed years ago. A year, maybe a year and a half ago, it would have already been done. But because of these construction problems, it ended up, being delayed long enough that COVID could impact the public sentiment, impact the for-profit sector so drastically that we were able to use that opportunity to leverage the deal, which I will now turn over to Tong to talk about.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rehash a lot of what Phil's already said, but when we originally assembled the task force, Deloitte had told us, I believe it was around June of 2018, if I recall correctly, and that the asset was going to come to the market in August. So we literally had something like 3 months or 2 months to get our ducks in a row to mount this bid. And so we were successful originally in raising something like $3.5 million in a matter of 3 months, which was really unheard of in the Korean community in the GTA, to come together that quickly to raise that kind of money to mount a bid. And then, of course, it took the receiver and another probably 6 to 8 months before they actually brought it to market. So, and I say that because, it created some tension within the community because we ran around, we raised a lot of money, it was very quick, and then we sat around and waited. And so people were wondering what the heck is going on. Anyways, we did put our bid together. We did have a strong bid. We made it to the second round. By all accounts, we were the second bidder. But a for-profit private sector bidder outbid us, and they outbid us by all accounts. Looking back now, because we know what the pricing was now, it was a significant delta. But it became clear that the reason they did that was because of the value of the real estate. And the funny thing about these long-term care operations, because they are all government funded and whatnot, the value of this facility is actually worth more if there was not a long-term care home there versus it being encumbered with a long-term care facility. Because if the home wasn't there, then they would just convert the space into condominiums. We all know what's going on in the Toronto condominium market. So there's a huge value increase. So, it became evident to us as we went through or after, we lost the bidding, that the rationale why this group outbid us was solely for the real estate, that their intentions really weren't to provide superior service to the Korean community. So having said all that, we did we felt as a community, as a task force, that we should maintain an open line of communication to this group because ultimately, at the end of the day, if they were going to take over the facility, they're going to be looking after our parents and grandparents, and we needed to have a good relationship with them so that we can try to make sure that we get the best service out of this group. So we did maintain that open line of communication. And then, as Phil suggested, COVID hit. And then we started seeing reports about all of the horrific things that were going on in these long-term care homes. And then we started doing some digging, and lo and behold, we discovered that the people who were going to be taking over the Rose of Sharon was actually one of the operators of some of the worst homes that we saw in the media at the early outbreak in March and April of 2020. Obviously, that set up all kinds of alarm bells in the community. The community rallied around this point, started pressuring government, started signing petitions, so on and so forth. So we felt as a task force, okay, that's great. The community needs to do that. They need to be an activist community. But we as a task force, we thought, okay, we need to keep our line of communication open with this group, because if there's an opportunity for something to happen, we want to make sure that they talk to us. Lo and behold, I guess about last summer, we got a call out of the blue from them saying they wanted to talk to us. We arranged a call, we talked. They started suggesting that perhaps there might be some thinking in their group that maybe there's something that can be done where Arirang steps in their shoes and takes over this facility. However, at the time, they were much more of the mindset that they just wanted to lease the facility to us because ultimately they wanted to maintain the real estate. We went back and forth. We told them in no uncertain terms that that kind of deal structure would not work for us. But, you know, we felt that it was important and incumbent on us to try and figure out a way that for them to be able to exit this deal gracefully, or else if we tried to pressure them or if we tried to badmouth them, that they would shut down the line of communication and then all would be lost. So we maintained that dialogue. We kept going back and forth. And then as the town hall, where the Ministry of Long-Term Care has to conduct as part of the license transfer process, they have to conduct a public hearing. As that was getting closer, and then they saw the community mounting its opposition to this group taking over. And then they saw what happened at the public hearing, which, by the way, for those who know anything about the long-term care sector, these public hearings are almost never done as a public hearing because there's almost never any public interest in these hearings. So the fact that all these groups showed up, all these people told their stories, I think they started to see that perhaps the writing was on the wall against them. So the discussions with them sort of picked up in earnest. One of the things that we knew, because we had talked to the receiver, was that if the Ministry of Long-Term Care were ultimately to reject this operator, reject their license transfer, we asked the receiver, would we, being the number 2 bidder, would we be allowed to step up and buy the facility? And they basically said no. Their instruction is that the facility would have to go back on the open market. They would open the bidding up again, and we would have to go through the entire process all over again with all of the uncertainty that's attached to it. So from our perspective, we felt that it was absolutely critical that we not let that process unfold, that we had to get control of this facility. And funnily enough, the The existing purchase agreement with Deloitte and this other group allowed this group to assign the deal, meaning basically hand this deal over to a different group. So basically, it was on that basis we started pursuing that avenue. And after much discussions, we finally got this group to agree to assign the deal to us. There were some financial, obviously, negotiations that were involved in that. But from our perspective, we felt that we could not risk letting this asset get back onto the open market and go through another round of bidding. So we were able to successfully agree to terms. And then the ball went into Deloitte's court because they had to approve the transfer. They threw up some conditions upon their approval. We had to negotiate a bunch of items with Deloitte, but we were able to get through that successfully as well. And so we have, to this date, we have Deloitte's approval. The deal is ours. We are waiting for the court to approve it, which is really just a rubber stamp process. And then once that's done, we officially apply to the Ministry of Long-Term Care for the transfer of license to Arirang, which can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So it's a long process. There's a number of things we have to do. And one of the things, and why this fundraising is so important, is that we have to be able to demonstrate to the Ministry of Long-Term Care our financial capability of closing this deal and running this home. And so what that meant was we needed to have money in the bank, literally, so that we could show to the ministry that we have the funds to be able to do this deal. Next slide. So, doing our analysis based on the numbers that we were looking at, sort of through our understanding of what we thought we could get in terms of debt financing or mortgage financing, we came up with a target of $4.5 million. And we set a target date of the end of June because that is when we anticipate we will be submitting our application to the Ministry of Long-Term Care. We are very happy to announce that we are almost there. It is middle of May. We've raised, I believe, just over $4 million to date. I don't know if we can announce, but we recently secured a very significant donation of $1 million, which has taken us over $4 million. So we are well on our way to doing this, but we need everybody's support in order to achieve our goal, because you have to remember that $4.5 million is just the beginning. Our objective, and I think Eunice will talk to this, but our objective is ultimately to become debt-free. And we also want to, obviously, or we need to expand the facility. We need to, the facility, believe it or not, is already 10 years old. And so we know that in the future, we are going to be faced with capital expenses because, these facilities, they're real estate, and real estate needs constant investment. So this is just the beginning for us. But, I think we can all be proud of the fact that we've been able to achieve $4 million in, 2 months. It's fantastic news. People have asked us, so how did we come up with $4.5 million? Like I said, it's based on what we think we can get in the debt markets in terms of mortgage financing and what we know we are going to be faced with in terms of capital expenditures moving forward, and a significant amount of sort of working capital because, there are numerous expenses that we face on an ongoing and daily basis. And as well, this home is going to be a platform for Arirang to integrate all of the other services that we want to deliver as an organization. And so there's lots of exciting things that we want to do, and Eunice can talk to it. but this is just the beginning.
Thanks, Phil and Tong, for what I thought was a pretty fascinating look into the journey that brought us to where we are today. It's actually really, really fascinating to hear the whole story in one go. I just wanted to put out a quick reminder that if you have any questions, please feel free to just shoot them in the chat, or if you want to submit them anonymously, you can do so at menti.com. That's MENTI.com, and the code is 20317044, and we'll be taking those questions at the end during the Q&A. It's important to remember that ultimately, I think this is really all about the Harmonis and the Harabijis in our community and at the Rose of Sharon. And we heard earlier from Gina and Marie, and so now we'd like to share this interview with Marie's mother, who's currently living at the Rose of Sharon.
할머니 오래간만이에요. 반갑습니다.
이렇게라도 볼 수 있으니 반갑고 기쁘다.
이 코로나 때문에 이제 할머니가 저나 뭐 친척분들 1년 넘게 이제 못 봤는데 그동안 많이 힘드셨죠?
힘드는 거 하나도 없었어. 너무 모두 기쁘게 잘해줘서.
그래요.
응.
그래서 이 무궁화 요양원 스태프분들 때문에 많이 편하게 해주시는 거 알고 있는데 좀 더 자세하게 할머니의 입에서 조금 직접 좀 듣고 싶어요. 왜 할머니한테 무궁화 요양원이 중요한지.
무궁화 양론이
네.
한국말로 첫째 하고
네.
또 음식도 한국 음식을 다 해서 주고 삼시로 해서 주고
네.
그렇게 해서 참 무궁화 양론이 너무 좋고 그리고 다른 양론으로 가보니까 내 친구 있는데 가보니 정말 양론에 나는 다시 안 간다고 맹세를 했다. 그랬는데 이제 무궁화 양론에 신청행기 나와서 이래 왔다. 와서
네.
보니까 너무 핑고 좋다.
네. 할머니 아시는지 모르지만 온태리오 다른 양로원에서 사실 많이 위험했었거든요. 코로나 그것 때문에. 혹시 할머니가 이 무궁화에 작년 1년 동안 계시면서 무섭거나 뭐 코로나 혹시 걸릴까 봐 두려운 적이 있었나요?
그런 건 없었어. 뭐 안 나가고 사람 안 들어오니까 뭐 코로나 걸리니까 그런 마음은 절대로 없었어. 피나기 잘 있었어.
네. 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 그리고 마지막으로 저는 무궁화 양로원에서 이제 할머니를 이렇게 케어를 해주시고 배려해주시는 것이 거기에 일하시는 사람들 때문이 아닌가 싶어요. 분들이 할머니한테 어떻게 도와주셨나요?
일하는 분들이 너무 좋아. 좋은 분들이 많고 첫째 여기 있는 이 아가씨도 너무 나한테 잘해주고 우리 모두 딸내들한테도 잘한다.
네.
너무 기쁘고 좋다 정말로.
그리고 이렇게 바깥에도 못 나가시고 하는데도 할머니가 즐겨 썼던 그런 것 같은 이제 재미나는
그런 게 없었어.
그러니까
너무,
어떻게 안 지루하게 어떻게 만드셨어요?
그지 뭐
거기에서 일하신 분들?
운동하고 프로그램하고 이러니까 곳에도 쉴 때는 조금 쉰다고 자고 놀고 하니 너무 핑고 좋아. 내가 이렇게 핑키 살아도 되나 싶은 마음이 들 때도 있다.
네. 그리고 그것도 들었어요. 그리고 직접도 보셨고 사진 속에서 이제 그 무궁화에서 일하시는 분들이 이제 거기에 계시는 분들 배려하는 마음으로 뭐 예를 들어서 미용사를 모셔가지고 머리도 자르고 화장도 해주시고 예? 그런 같은 것도 해줬죠.
화장은 안 해줘도 머리는 잘라줬어.
네네네네. 아유 아무튼 우리 식구들도 너무 무궁화 양로원 때문에 진짜 특별히 이런 코로나 팬데믹 속에서 할머니 거기에서 계신 것이 너무나도 고맙고 너무나도 감사한 마음이 있습니다.
그래 집에 있었으면 뭐 내 혼자 아무래도 심심하고 다른 사람 다른 데도 못 나가고 심심한데 여 사람들과 있으니 지어본 줄도 모르고 정말 잘 있었어.
네, 알겠습니다. 할머니 감사합니다. 곧 보고 너무 많이 보고 싶어요. 직접
나도 너 보고 싶다.
언젠간 꼭 그 날 바라보면서 여기에서 인사드릴게요, 할머니.
짝다리
예.
웨딩 건강하고
네.
조심해라 모든 것이.
네.
그래
감사합니다.
만날 때까지 건강하고 잘 살아라.
네. 감사합니다, 할머니.
복 본다 수고한다.
네. 사랑해요.
고맙다.
네.
You know, I've seen that video, I think at least 5 or 6 times, but every single time I see it, especially at the end, I feel like, you know, oh, that feels like exactly like how my harmony would speak to me. Thank you, Melvin and Gina and Marie, and of course, Melvin and Gina's harmony for that interview. It's that's really what this is all about, I think. So, you know, while we're focused on bringing the Rose of Sharon home, it's just one important step in a broader vision. And we have Eunice to speak to that in this slide about that broader vision. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Can we go back to the slide? There we go. Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier on, we feel that the Korean Canadian community is underserved. The history of this Rose of Sharon began when, together with Lee-Hung community, the Chinese nursing home, and while they are now looking at over 4,000 beds, we're still trying to keep the 60 that we were granted years ago, decades ago. So I think it is up to us, the younger generation, to protect what we have and to be able to project our to be able to provide further for our seniors. And compared to other communities, as we said, we're just so underserved, not in terms of the nursing home, but also in the community healthcare setting. We do not have any adult day programs that specifically geared to the Korean community, other than the Arirang that we set up, which is run only 2 days a week. And currently, we have developed a system where we're providing mobile adult day programs, so we can go and see our clients directly at home and provide them with the care that they need, and then some social interaction. So as we said before, it is the only Korean Canadian long-term care facility, and we have the mandate from the government that we can give priority to Korean residents, as opposed to having other ethnic residents to come into the nursing home. Right now, it says 2 to 3 years, but the waiting list for Rose is over 150. And, you know, basically, unfortunate thing is, in order for a resident to pass, you know, we have to wait for that spot to come up. So it is crucial that we increase the number of beds that are available to our community. And one of the projects that I believe the task force is looking at is potentially increasing the beds by expanding the facility on the 2nd and 3rd floor of the current building. So that is something we can all contribute. If we do more fundraising, we'll be able to acquire additional 40 beds quite quickly, and to accommodate our Korean grandparents and parents. Once the Rose of Sharon is in our own hands and we're able to run it, we are hoping the AAFCC will be able to run some Meals on Wheels plans coming out of the kitchen facilities of Rose of Sharon, and to be able to provide food and other PSW cares to people who might be isolated and staying at home. For those of us who have senior parents or grandparents, while we go to work, these seniors do not have any social interaction and they stay home. And like Melvin's grandmother had said, she feels so much happier living in the nursing home and connecting with others and, you know, being properly cared for. So it is very, very important that we provide additional beds to more seniors and to be able to care for them within our Korean community. So securing Rose of Sharon is the first step for other plans that we have for AAFCC. We hope to provide as we said, the AAFCC was meant to be a hub where we were connecting resources to needs. And having Rose will provide us with the secure footing that is necessary to close the gap that we face in the provision of services to the Korean seniors currently who have not been able to receive any government-funded services. We all pay taxes, and I believe we need to all work together so that our hard-earned tax payments are directed towards our own community.
Thank you very much for that. We've been really amazed at the support that we've been seeing locally, in the media, and even internationally. And we even recently received this message of support from across the ocean from the Team Kim curling team, which we'll play for you now.
안녕하세요. 여자 컬링팀 팀킴입니다. 저희가 캐나다에서 많은 시간을 컬링을 하면서 캐나다 한인분들의 깊은 사랑과 응원을 많이 받았습니다. 그런데 최근 캐나다 유일의 한인 요양원인 무궁화 요양원이 현재 운영 위기에 처해 있다는 소식을 들었습니다. 캐나다 한인분들의 깊은 애국심이 깃든 무궁화 요양원이 잘 운영되어 앞으로 한인분들에게 큰 힘이 되었으면 좋겠습니다. 무궁화 요양원이 잘 운영될 수 있도록 많은 관심 가져주시고 도움 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Next slide, please. So for me, I feel like one of the most amazing things about this campaign is that our collective efforts as a community and our collective action as a community is making a real tangible difference that we can feel and see. Already there's been $4 million raised. A large part of that has come from the first generation community. And we need your help to help bring it over the finish line. So we were thinking, how can we make this, make it easy for people to participate? And there are 3 quick actions that you can take right now, even as you're listening to this. So the first one is to donate. If you go to the support, ros.ca website, there's a donate button there. You can do it on your mobile. It takes just seconds to fill out. And you'll get an automated receipt that you can claim on your taxes almost immediately. This is really about creating, something for the future, something that you can be proud of and something we can build together as a community. So please do consider donating. A second action that, again, you can take right now, it only takes a few seconds, is to get onto your phone, to get on Instagram or Facebook and follow us. And maybe even consider tagging your friends or suggesting other friends, follow us or like our page on Facebook. Building our digital footprint is so helpful in helping us get the word out to others. And it also helps us be able to reach out and give people updates on the progress that we've been making. And finally, this is the one that I encourage everyone to consider doing. You can do it right now. It's really 4 quick steps. It's super fast and super easy, and it doesn't cost you anything. But to start your own fundraiser. And one way you can do that is on Facebook. I know it's a bit hard to see here, but if you just go onto your Facebook page, you create a post, you can raise money in step 2, and you can select a nonprofit to raise money for. And if you type in Arirang Age, you'll see Arirang Age-Friendly Community Centre right there at the very top. Just click that and create a post. Type in a short message, personalize it, something that's going to really connect with your network and your friends and your family and your, micro community, and tell your story and get people to, open their hearts and open their wallets to support this initiative, because we're so close and we can really help bring this home. So I ask you to consider just taking 60 seconds, whether it's right now or even after this town hall to do so, or, you can do it at any time. So thanks for considering that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sydney, who's going to give away some exciting prizes.
So now we're going to announce the winners for the gift card giveaway. Can you allow me to share my screen? Sorry. Is it showing the right screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to pick a random name. And the winner is Alan Hahn. And we have.
Congratulations, Alan.
Congratulations.
And we have 4 winners. So I'll pick another random name. We have Jee-Yun Kim. Congratulations.
Yay.
Our 3rd winner is Olivia. Congratulations. And our last winner of the evening is Steve Suck. So congratulations,
Steve.
Everyone.
Just a FYI to everyone, while Melvin gets the slide back onto the screen here. So we do have four prizes that we're giving away. So they're all from 3 of our most generous sponsors. So we have PT Supermarket, Galleria, and H Mart. So we have 2 gift cards from H Mart that are worth $50 each, and one from Galleria also worth $50 each, and one from PAT also worth $50 each, $50 as well. Just FYI though, oh wait, you know what? I'll share that information with the actual winners. So for all the winners, please send me a message on Zoom right now, or send an email to our general mailbox at supportros@aafcc.ca, and I'll be able to work with you to get that prize over to you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Anna. Oh, and I think we, can we back up one slide, please? So now it's time for our Q&A. Can I hand it over to you, Anna?
Yeah, sure. So from the Mentimeter, just FYI, you guys still have time to submit unlimited anonymous questions. There's absolutely no way for me to find out who submitted any of the questions. And you don't have to do a sign up for menti.com either. So we do have 5 questions that came in. They're all quite different. First one being, is the second gen fundraising team looking for members, and how can we join? So as the fundraising lead for the second gen community, I'm going to say yes, we're desperately looking for people in the best way possible. We have a lot of initiatives that we're planning for the near future, and especially with our golf initiative that we are planning to announce later this, right after this town hall. We are looking for a lot of volunteers for that. FYI for everyone on the call that will be happening on October 1st. So please mark your calendars. The save the date will go out in the Korea Times and all of the Korean media later this week. So that's going to be an event that's going to be super big and will need a lot of help planning. So please shoot me a message. You can send me a direct message over on Zoom, or again, through our general mailbox. You can find our email on the Support ROS website. Okay, we have another question. I'm going to direct this one to Dr. Kim, if we still have him on the call. Dr. Kim, yep, he's here, Dr. Donald Kim. If I may put him on the spot, there is a question on why aren't we fundraising for additional beds right now?
You have to unmute him. Somebody has to unmute him.
Dr. Kim, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, hello.
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I guess the first objective is really to finalize our the 60 beds first. We had, as Eunice previously mentioned, that we had previously tried to apply for the 40 additional bed to the ministry, and we got rejected. And the reasoning was the fact that we did not have the ownership of the 60 bed Rose of Sharon. So once we have the ownership of Rose of Sharon, as Eunice mentioned, that I think that we have a very good relationship with the government, and also, there is a desperate need for more beds within the Korean community. So we will certainly be delving into the possibility of securing those 40 beds. Does that answer the question?
I personally think it does, but for the person who did post that question, if you need a clarifying, if you have a clarifying question, please put that in the Menti as well. Okay, I do know that there are some questions in the chat, but I'm going to go to the ones that were asked first from earlier in the meeting. So there's another question on, there have been issues with the management from the Rose of Sharon community in the past. What will you do in the future to prevent mismanagement and be publicly transparent and accountable? I'm going to give this one to you again, Dr. Kim.
Well, I don't know. The best person probably will be to answer that will be the Tong or Eunice or somebody who is a little more management oriented.
Let me try to answer that, because there might be some not confusion, but some overlap between management issues with respect to the old Rose of Sharon. That if the question is directed at the reason for why this thing went into receivership in the first place, that group, as I mentioned in my little overview, that's an organization that no longer controls any aspect of Rose of Sharon and has not controlled any aspect of Rose of Sharon since 2011 when the receiver was appointed. So all control was taken away from that group, and the people who were part of that management team has not had any involvement since 2011. So since 2011, when the receiver was appointed, they continued to use a company called Assured Care Consulting as the operations manager for the long-term care facility. And Assured Care has been, under the direction of the receiver, been managing the Rose of Sharon nursing home since that time, has had a very, very good track record. And my understanding, and I'm not on the board of Arirang, but my understanding with respect to Arirang's intentions when the sale closes and Arirang takes control over from the receiver, is that Arirang will continue to use Assured Care Consulting. And Arirang already has a very good and a very positive relationship with the principal of Assured Care and that company. So I hope that answers your question in terms of, ensuring that the same problems that, sort of led this project to go into receivership, the issues are not the same, because a lot of those financial difficulties and the problems came because of the construction of an entire building with residential units and the nursing home. In this case, Arirang is only purchasing the nursing home, and that's what it's going to be operating. So, the issues are very different now.
If I may add, I think going forward, as far as the operations of the AFCC is concerned, we'll be providing audited financial statements to the community on a yearly basis. So, and it will be one of the requirements to get ourselves qualified to purchase the nursing home in the first place. So, and then that practice will continue.
I think that answers the question fairly well. Thank you so much, Phil and Eunice. The last question from Menti is, when is the hard deadline for donation? And will donations be accepted after the deadline of June 30th?
Of course.
Yes.
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 The answer is yes.
Yes.
24/7. We will accept donations 24/7.
Yes. And also because like when you compare our community to the Chinese community, Yihong carries out an annual, I think the Dragon Ball is to raise funds for their, for future building of their nursing homes. And, they do this every year. I think this is something, in order to increase the beds for our community, this is something we have to do continuously, the fundraising, the support, the collective community spirit to keep our seniors safe and to make sure they have a place to stay when we can no longer take care of them. So I think it is incumbent upon all of us as a younger generation to be able to, put aside and on an annual basis, some donations for our grandparents. It's like yongdon for them, for our grandparents, yongdon, parents, yongdon. So I think this is something we have to continuously do. And I beseech you to do so every year, every month, every single time you think about your mom or dad.
One thing I want to emphasize is that AAFCC does not belong to a certain group of individuals. AAFCC will be the ownership of the AAFCC will be the Korean community. Although the current directors are composed of 1.5 and the second gen people. Going forward, the directors will change every 3-4 years. So the second gen and third generation will be the directors going forward. So we need as many young second and third generation people really get involved and become the directors and take over this endeavors over the next number of years. So, for example, myself, Eunice, and they, and some of the old folks in within the board, they'll be retiring. They will be retiring in the next few years. So, we need the people from in their 30s and 40s really take an ownership of this project.
On that note, I don't know if Anna, if I can actually interject. So
Sure.
This is something that is continuing and going forward. My name is Melvin. Actually, I was the person in the videos, and my harmony is at Rose of Sharon. I want to first of all publicly say thank you to everybody who was involved in the multi-year process to have Rose of Sharon become a reality and provide the care. And on behalf of my family, I want to say, 대단히 감사합니다. Thank you so much for helping my harmony to have sustained healthy care in her life. I will be organizing a charity golf tournament for Rose of Sharon. We've actually, myself and Day, we've actually secured Angus Glenn for Friday, October 1st at 1 p.m. for our shotgun charity tournament. So this is the first time we're announcing this publicly. People who, I don't know whoever asked, can we continue to donate after the deadline? Absolutely. This is your vehicle to do so. we will be trying to actually secure major corporate sponsorship. And we actually have set a lofty goal of $100,000 donation goal for the golf tournament. So especially you golfers out there, keep your eyes open. More announcements are forthcoming.
Thank you, Melvin. I think that answers Christine Moon's question, right? In terms of if we're going to do any more fundraising efforts directed at larger private or corporate donations, that answers, majority of it there. But also, the second gen fundraising team, we are recognizing that in order to make big bucks fast, blatantly speaking, we do need to reach out to corporate sponsors. And that is something that we are working on right now, not only just for golf, but also just for general fundraising on a yearly basis going forward. So for the person who also reached out asking how they can get more involved, we are looking for people to help us on that front as well, to reach out to corporations and to other groups that would be able to help us financially in the years to come. So this is something that we are actively starting on right now, and our fundraising team would love to have you. So please, by all means, again, message me and we'll make things work. Okay. Eugene, I'll hand it back over to you. I don't see any more questions coming in.
Actually, there is one question here, and maybe Dr. Kim can answer. It's about how healthcare providers might be able to get directly involved in providing care at Rose of Sharon. I don't know if Dr. Kim, you have the answer to that or not. Someone has to unmute him.
I personally have not previously been involved with the providing healthcare at Rose of Sharon, but I know a number of family doctors within our community have provided healthcare, and in fact, the house family physician. I know at least 2 family physicians within the community have served as the in-house family doctors. So, going forward, certainly once the AAFCC has the ownership of this particular LTC, I'm sure we'll be mobilizing many soliciting help from the healthcare workers. So, the opportunity is wide open. So once we have the ownership, the opportunity is limitless. So, Eunice has mentioned so many different projects, not only expanding the number of beds, but there are all sorts of services available. And through the government funding, the big problem within our Korean community is we try to be self-sufficient within our community by raising funds. We, get the money out of our own pocket, trying to subsidize our programs. I mean, that is not the right answer. I mean, we're paying our taxes, So it's about time that we drive the benefit of all the government programs. They are spending billions and billions of dollars on seniors' care, and it's about time that the Korean community tap into this program.
Actually, Dr. Kim, I have a follow-up question to that. So thank you, Antonio, for the question. Perhaps I should know this as well, but in terms of the medical care that ROS residents do get, is it only family physicians that are currently going in, or are there also like optometrists, dentists, other types of specialized providers who also go in as well, or how does that work?
I'm not sure what is happening with the Rose of Sharon, but with the other long-term care facilities, it's usually the family physicians that serves the LTC. But like, for example, our hospital is providing all sorts of virtual care clinics now by different specialties, and podiatrists and nutritionists, and so I'm sure that those will be forthcoming post-pandemic era.
There was a question to me, I don't know why, but whether this is being recorded and the recording can be shared later.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we are recording this. I mentioned that at the beginning, but some of you may have joined later on. So we will be sharing it out later so you can review it, and please share it with anyone who you think might be interested. If you have any concerns that you're on camera and you have COVID hair, just send us a message and we'll see what we can do about that. We'll try our best.
Thank you.
And
Eugene, can I add to what Dr. Kim said? There's all the staff at the Rose of Sharon long-term care are Korean Canadian, the Korean-speaking staff. So nurses, PSW, all the staff, the caregivers, and so by building long-term care beds for the community within the community, we are providing jobs for our fellow Koreans in the community. And so basically, in Chinese community between Mongcheong and Yihong, they have thousands of employees there, and most of their pay is covered through the funds received through the license they have received from the government.
that's a really, really great point. Thank you for adding that. I help take care of my mom and I coordinate her medical care, and knowing that there are people that, knowing that we can create, there's an opportunity to create a system where we can have people like our parents be cared for in a way that's culturally sensitive in their own languages is so encouraging and so exciting for me. So if there's no other questions, I see that we're at time. Just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. We know that people are busy, and we really, really appreciate your time. We will be sharing the video later on, so please feel free to share it. Tell your friends, get others involved. And like we said, if you want to take a quick action to make a difference so we can harness our collective energy to bring this home, consider donating at the supportros.ca website. Follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And finally, please, please, please consider doing a fundraiser on Facebook. We've already seen amazing success with this. I won't embarrass the person, but someone who's on this Zoom call right now had a birthday fundraiser, and they were able to raise $5,000 within just a few days. There was another person who's a recent graduate who did her own fundraiser, and she was able to raise almost $500 in just a few days. So please consider, it's a great way to really amplify your own impact. And with that, I'll just say thank you, everyone. And we look forward to talking again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.